League of Legends is making you a worse person. And the worst part is you're letting it. Now, I don't mean like the typical type of thing a parent will say, like, oh, you're wasting your time. Oh, you should use this energy elsewhere. No, I mean as in you're becoming a more cruel human being. I'm going to tell you why and what you should do about it. Ever since its conception, League of Legends has had the reputation as one of the most toxic player communities in online gaming, one that to this day has still not been definitively dethroned. Toxicity in online gaming is when a player behaves negatively toward other players, usually involving abusive communication, like harassment or what can be termed as flaming, or can involve disruptive in-game behavior like intentionally griefing or going AFK. Toxicity in League of Legends has been a major problem affecting the player community for years. Riot Games has implemented various systems to curb toxic behavior such as chat filters, bans, and restrictions, but the problem still persists. A 2021 study done by Beres et al. Highlights the nature and reasons behind toxic behavior in online competitive games. One potential reason that toxicity is still a problem is that exposure to toxic behavior is known to perpetuate it. A recent study shows that being a victim of toxic abuse in multiplayer online battle arenas, or MOBAs, increases a player's chance of perpetuating toxic behavior. Thinking about this realistically, each and every single player that has played League of Legends has been a victim of toxicity in some capacity. If being a victim of toxicity increases that player's chance of being toxic themselves, then that increase of chance becomes a blanket that applies to relatively all players. Another possible reason is that some people believe that toxicity is an unavoidable part of competitive gaming interactions. In other words, they think it's just how gamers interact with each other, or it's just gamers being gamers. But this unspoken approval of negative and abusive behavior, which is seen as being a normal part of the gaming context, leads to a normalization of toxic behaviors within gaming culture. The problem with this, though, is that normalizing toxic behaviors creates a cycle of reciprocal perpetuation, meaning it's a mutual, given and returned continuation of the toxicity cycle. The theory of normalized behavior suggests that those who are more approving of a particular behavior will be more likely to engage in it, and vice versa. In the context of online gaming, though, this suggests that those who engage in toxic behaviors will normalize their beliefs about toxicity, and that those with normalized beliefs will be more approving of toxic behavior in gaming. This brings me to the topic of moral disengagement. Originally introduced by internationally recognized social psychologist Albert Bandura, moral disengagement is a process where people rationalize engaging in immoral behaviors to avoid feelings of self-condemnation. This means that when someone acts in a way that is opposite of their morality, they attempt to validate their decision or their behavior by removing their moral self-punishment or like restraint or disapproval of their own actions, but it only applies to themselves. There are 8 different mechanisms of moral disengagement. Moral justification, reframing a decision to serve a moral purpose. This is like someone justifying intentionally feeding a game just to make another player lose because that player did something or said something that was wrong, and the enter feels like this is punishment for them. Euphemistic labeling, language that detracts from the emotional intensity of the subject being referenced. This is like an enter running it down because he's saying someone is too fed, or they're like, oh, I'm not trying anymore, but like no bro, you're just inting, stop trying to mask it. Advantageous comparison, minimizing immoral severity by comparison to an act of greater immorality. This is someone who justifies their flaming by being like, oh, at least I'm not inting, as if that makes it any better. It's still wrong. A murderer doesn't go around being like, oh, at least I'm not committing genocide. Like, bro, it's still bad. Diffusion of responsibility, lack of personal accountability when others are present. There isn't much this applies to in League, to be honest, but a decent example would be like not reporting someone after a game because they assume that the other players in that game are going to report them, so they don't feel responsible for reporting them, even though they should be reported. Displacement of responsibility, lack of personal accountability when under the authority of another person. Do you ever actually take accountability for yourself when you follow a Baron call that somebody else made that you know is bad? You're doing it anyways, and then afterwards it turns out bad, and then you flame them. You're like, oh, we shouldn't have done that, but like, you didn't say anything, did you? Distortion of consequences, minimization of the harm caused to others by their own actions. Plenty of people who flame or end either don't realize or don't care about the harm that they're committing to other people. And honestly, a lot of the time they're intending for that harm. Dehumanization, stripping people of human qualities. It's hard to always see the people in your game as just regular people just playing League, same as you, living as intricate a life as you are as well. Hearing no voices or seeing any faces makes it easy for people to just dehumanize players or even call them bots or subhuman. Attribution of blame, attributing blame to others to avoid a personal accountability. I don't think that there's a single player that hasn't done this at least once, thinking that they did everything they could to win the game and that they just had bad teammates, and sometimes it's just not the case. Some games really are unwinnable, but chances are you really didn't do every single optimal move or play at every single point in the game, meaning that you you probably contributed to the loss. These are all ways that people who commit toxicity justify or morally disengage from their actions. I would be surprised if even one of you hasn't done this in their whole League of Legends playing career. The thing is, these things wouldn't happen as much if it was real life. The nature of online communities, especially in gaming, makes it so that you can be anonymous and invisible, which give people the freedom to act how they wouldn't in the real world. I'm a collegiate League of Legends player, and in my experience, this holds true. Countless times, I've been flamed in a game by a player that I know, who I later meet in person and become friends with. It can almost be like different people, actually. In the earlier study, researchers at an elf in Turkey also found that collegiate esports club members rationalize and normalize negative behaviors as endemic to competitive gaming cultures, and thus were disinclined to report these behaviors. Thankfully, in my program at Winthrop University, I've experienced nothing of the sort, but not all programs are so lucky. So what should you do? The best things that could happen would be out of the player's control, which would be for Riot Games to improve their systems for combating toxicity. Current honor rewards are a joke, leaving very little incentive for one to obtain them. I swear bruh, no one wants another war with Chroma. There are things, however, that are in your power, and these can help your experience as well as the experience of other players. Firstly, be mindful of the topics in this video about the cycle of toxicity and the moral disengagement of it, and don't be someone who continues a legacy. One of the most important pieces of advice that I can give you on this topic is just mute all. I've been playing without chat for a couple seasons now, and honestly, I am never going back. The peace of mind that you attain by not constantly engaging and draining meaningless arguments is just so refreshing. And honestly, everything that needs to be communicated can be through pings. That's it for this video. Hopefully it helped you out in one way or another. Drop a like and comment if you enjoyed and would like to see more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.